Good evening and welcome to Performance and Benchmarks. Workers and Resources Soviet Republic is the specifics of these benchmarks, but many conclusions may also apply to other similar titles with similar architecture, let's call it that. What is it that I've been up to here lately? I've gone way off the deep end here in trying to get my Soviet simulator to run just a little bit more efficient or a bit quicker, and so it is running in the background here. It wouldn't feel right without it, without having the Soviet 64.exe running whilst doing it, even though the setup here is very different from usual. Yes, get down to it or get into it. I am. This is what we have here tried out various different benchmarking. First in the list, the Xeon E3 1240 V3 with hyperthreading and without hyperthreading, which is also what the game is running on in the background now, and what it is recording on and everything. Recording the video on, I should specify. Be specific about. Yes. So this is the various setups that we've had. I've tried. The Xeon E3 1240. Yes, that's from whenever it is from. Yes, we can check. We have yes, I use Bing to get to Google. Yes, of course, I do everything. E3 1240 V3. Yes, Intel has excellent, these sort of things. Yes, this is what we got. It is for servers. It is discontinued, but from 2013. Yes, 4 cores, 8 threads, base frequency of 3.4 GHz, max frequency of 3.8 GHz. Yes, and so on. The important bit is it has here, yes, AVX2. It has that, so that's good. That's really good. Anyway, we should get on with it here to get back to that bit. Yes, and why not get straight into it? First and foremost, how to benchmark this, or no? Yes, organized as usual, as always. We are continuing through the various systems here, trying to explain a bit what they are. Yes, this. Of course, I tried it I tested it with the hyperthreading both on and off, and then I have the separate rig, which is older generation. It doesn't have the AVX2 instruction set. It's very old. It's 10 years old at this point. But anyway, I have a monstrous workstation here, which has power supplies that could also be used for welding if you need to. Anyway, with that, I have two X5675s, 48 gigs of RAM, and yes, the GPU is the same throughout here, except for these two, which is just thrown in there as a comparison to see what difference it makes, if any. Right. Yes, never mind. Yes, and then the classic Soviet simulator, which most of videos here from Dr. Pluring has been recorded on, is the last one in the list. It is in bits, and I cannot put it together right now. Regrettably, so it does not have a benchmark, but it is pretty close, I would think, to this monster rig. Maybe a little bit better, because it has better. As this is the best thing about Intel. If you type on the correct keyboard, that is. Yes, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keyboards in front of me, so I'm sorry for not choosing the right one at the first attempt. Should we maybe even get this a bit larger? Yes, why not? Yes, in Q1 of 2011, that was the classic Soviet simulator, base clock of 3.46 GHz, max turbo frequency of 3.7 GHz. Yes, nice. Very good Intel. Thank you so much for your excellent documentation on your hardware. And it is so easy to find. Yes, and how I've gone about this, benchmarking, trying to get this to benchmark, is first to do the setup, which is to get OBS Studio up and running, get the FPS monitor up and running, and then start the game, load the same save game that has been used for all the time here, and maybe it is more efficient if we show it. Yes, let's just make sure that we're doing a good thing. No, we're actually doing this one instead. Yes, so here is the current incantation of the Soviet simulator doing this benchmark. Yes, this is it. This is what it does. And maybe since it comes with sound, we shall decrease the sound of the real-time Soviet simulator down there in the corner to about here somewhere. Anyway, yes, we don't need to sit around for the loading screen, really. Then that's unnecessary. Yes. Oh, there we go. And that was very noticeable in volume. We'll turn you down just a tad. Oh, okay. Now back up just a bit. There we go. Import rails. Yes, I think that you wasted more time by trying to optimize that than you gained. Yes. Oh, the Soviet simulator is hiding some information down there. Yes, resolution and so on. It is the same for everything here anyway. So it doesn't matter maybe that much. Yeah, so this is the benchmark, and I don't know if it is a completely, a benchmark that is great in as it relates to how you would normally play the game, as we will see later on when we get to conclusions and such, because this is not how you play the game usually, riding first person, and the numbers look abysmal. Already here. At least we're quite efficient power consumption wise. That's always something, as you can have the GPU 40 watts, 50 sometimes. Yes, very nice. VRAM, yes, there should be more available, but you don't seem to want more. Yes, the railroad is caved in and everything. Anyway, so this is sort of the thing, yes, this is the test. It goes around like this for at least 8 minutes, and then what I did was just end the first person view, put mouse cursor away and try not to touch anything. So, and then for the actual performance numbers, yes, I'll try to find as similar a spot as possible in the recorded video to get comparable, perhaps average numbers and so on. So that's my methodology. But it seems to that I have chosen quite a bad spot for this, because there is the numbers don't change a whole lot to give it away, basically, and how much? Yes, this is old hardware. I am very much aware of the fact that this is very old hardware. We could go back one generation. We can go back one generation further. Let's see which one we want to do. We want to do maybe the dual x56 75 then with the modern GPU, and that is susceptible to Spectre and Meltdown. Yes, disable those workarounds, those things. So yes, loading time here is severely longer because of the storage device used. But as we can see, the VRAM increase there as well. Here we go. This is 1 generation old CPU. Regrettably, the frame rate coloring is different. But if you look at the numbers, this is then slower. It almost feels quicker. From this thing. And at the wall, this draws about 300 watts, give or take. Maybe a bit more even. Maybe even a bit more. But from time to time and so on, it averages about 300 watts maybe. The modern thing, the one we came from, about half of that, yes. But this is a ridiculous thing, you know. This is a rack mount workstation class computer, which has twin or redundant dual power supplies of 1.1 kilowatts each. Yes, that's why I refer to it as the welding rig. Since that's what it is, or not, it is a very, very effective heater too, and so on. But I mean, it seems to run the game pretty much as well as the later generation CPU did, more or less. And it's running at similar clock frequency. Can one draw the conclusion maybe that the game and this particular workload, let's say, rather than the game, this particular workload does not benefit that much from these later additions to the instruction sets, the AVX2. I don't know what AVX2 does. I don't know, does the programmer have to specifically ask to use it? Does the compiler have to specifically optimize for it? Or does the processor just do it? Yes, this I know how to do better than what I'm being told here. No, I don't know. I don't think processors work that way. They sort of do what they're told. I mean, never mind, that's a sidetrack. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty decent here too. And if there is a difference, I don't know. Can we get? Where are we? We're about 4 minutes in. Let's jump back into the modern thing. The slightly more modern, the most modern thing. We're at the same place at least. That's something, I suppose. And I mean, 13, 15, it fluctuates about there. Yeah. The total CPU load is a whole lot higher, since of course we have 4 cores as compared to 12 cores in the welding rig. But the game only utilizes 2 cores, yes. This game is not multi-threaded, it is not single-threaded, it is dual-threaded. Yes, it is dual-threaded. Oh, let's see if I can pull this up here. I got a comment here recently from... What was your name again? Yes, this is going great as usual, you know. Always with the greatness. Morgan. Yes, Morgan. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you. But yes, you make very good points about people who ask for larger maps. You know, what's the point? Because I've not even filled this up, and it starts to get, you know, painful to play. It's not always enjoyable. Even though there's lots of stuff going on and things to look at and so on, which is great fun. But no, it is not multi-threaded, it is dual-threaded. But So all of the economy simulation and world simulation and all of what the workers are supposed to do and what their needs are and everything like that, all of that is done in one thread. And I would suppose if we look up here, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out which core is currently working on it. Yes, it switches around, it's the operating system that decides where a specific scheduled task actually gets executed. We cannot, well, we can force it to only execute on certain cores, but it is most likely not to benefit performance. Yes, we're even boosting to 3.6 gigahertz here quite often. But was that really that different to this? What about? I think it is a bit different in how it feels. Ah, come on. Get moving. Yes. I mean, the numbers in the end may not be that different. It may not be enough to you're a lot louder from that rig. Of course, that rig is loud in many ways. Yes, this is slower than the other one. This is slower. This is 10 FPS here. So okay, we're doing a little bit better. And this, of course, we're limited to 3.3 gigahertz hereabouts. It can turb up to a little bit more, I think. But if I would put the old Soviet simulator, the classic Soviet simulator, later back again, we might even get 3.73 gigahertz every now and then, which would do something. A little bit, a few percent, 1 or 2% maybe. Yes. So is that enough of this? Don't know. Maybe. I mean, we have plenty more to test or to show that we have tested. I might, if there is interest, I could upload the raw footage of this if there is. But if there isn't, I won't bother. But I'll keep them around just in case. Yeah, so we have, as I'm going through the notes here, it's very different from the usual, things here. But yes, this we sort of know that it's the know by now anyway. One thing that is quite interesting to look at is this. This is the Quadro 6000 that was introduced in 2010. Yes, running still in the welding rig. That power usage figure is not correct. I think I fixed that pretty soon because it was more like 450, I think. And also, of course, this doesn't have sensors for this stuff to tell you how much the wattage is. Although this particular thing, yes, of course, since it is such a high class of thing, it's if you can interface with its board management controller, then it could tell you how much power it's using. But the FPS mon utility is not really made to interface with that sort of hardware. No, I think it's more sort of consumer grade stuff. And well, maybe I should speak something to that. It doesn't really matter that I'm running this on server stuff rather than consumer stuff. What matters is the clock speed and the instruction set, to some degree the generation of CPU, the clock speed and how much you can sustain it, and RAM. Yes, we have enough RAM, obviously. What's pretty cool about this graphics card is that it's yes, it is from 2010, but it has 6 gigabytes of memory. Quite expensive when new. Not that useful nowadays, though, since my little consumer thing here, 1060 from 4 years ago, does a whole lot of work for like. So I don't even know. It's a fraction of the energy. Anyway, but here we are. Here we're running on a 10-year-old GPU. Give it that it has, yes, it has a lot of VRAM for its age. And it has to work pretty hard. I mean, at least it's nice to see that it does work. It is hard at work. That's a good thing. That's some satisfaction to see that we're actually utilizing the thing. Yes, and we can also see the two different CPUs here, and we can clearly see which one the game is running on and not. And this, yes, in the slide I had before, slide, right. Yes, for the SMP, this is an SMP machine. It has dual CPUs, so the NUMA, N-U-M-A, yes, basically for each processor there is a RAM, right? So each processor has its own RAM, so to speak. Although processor 1 can access the RAM of processor 2 and vice versa if they want to. But that's of course a whole lot more expensive than accessing the RAM that is local to you. So if you have this feature enabled, NUMA, whatever, and if that is enabled all the way through the whole stack, and especially most importantly the operating system here at the end, it will only schedule tasks with processes which pages are in the RAM adjacent to a certain CPU. It will only schedule those tasks there. Yes. This system is also at pretty much of a disadvantage when it comes to encoding this stuff, since the Quadro there doesn't really have a video encoding chip on it. No, these modern things, they have extremely efficient hardware video encoders, but this one not so much. So the CPUs have to do that. But I don't think we have quite a few cores available for the work. But every now and then I could notice when recording this that not every frame drop that we see here is actually in the game. Although these numbers should still be as representative here as they are in other places. Yes. So yes, this is a rough area, really rough area that we're traveling through here. It was now it gets dark. Yeah, that's really bad. Yes, that's quite terrible. So don't try and play the game with the 10-year-old GPU. That also, it gets extremely hot. It is 88 degrees, but nothing to worry about though, because the welding rig has fans in it. It has quite decent fans. No, this is more like like a tidbit, I'd say. It's not that interesting, really. But if we could get back into thing here, this is what the numbers say. Yes, from this. Trying to find a similar, spot in each video, each recording, and getting the numbers from here. Yeah. This is it. According to this thing, anyway. According to this way of measuring. Yes, there is basically no difference. At least here, with the with these things. Yes, the minimum FPS is a bit higher, which might be a bit telling to the actual experience of playing the game, because I can tell that the game certainly feels a bit better on this E3 1240 V3 CPU than it does on, or did on, the classic Soviet simulator. Yes, it feels a bit a bit better, you know. Not 20%, not even 10, maybe, but 5. Somewhere in between 5 and 10%. I'd say that does. And that was a leap. That was one of the greatest leaps we've had recently in CPU development, you know, as far as, you know, work per clock count goes. Which is what we're locked into here, and that is really the problem. The problem is not with the CPU performance, or the problem, well, it depends on what perspective you have. But I mean, the hardware is what we have. And if you're a software developer, maybe you should be considering trying to parallelize your workload. Yes, it's a whole lot more difficult. It's a whole lot more difficult. Previously, I was on about about this game being dual-threaded. Yes, all the economy is done in one thread. I said that, and the other thread does the rendering, whatever that means. The GPU does the actual drawing of the stuff. I suppose it basically tells it, draw this here. Here's a train, here's a power line, here's a pylon, here's a person, and so on. And one thing that I think, if we look at what's happened now. Oh, there we go. Very good. Although maybe not this particular video. We choose a better one. We choose. We can choose this one, the no GUI one for. I should also mention that the Spectre meltdown mitigations are disabled for these older CPUs and for all CPUs involved here, except where otherwise noted. Yes, the one core that does the drawing. Where were you going with this then? Yes, it feels a bit better. So, question is, I mean, from this generation here, where is the goddamn cursor now? Come on. Yes, from this generation here to this generation here, which were leap, almost. There is a slight increase in performance. Okay, now we're still talking about, even with this, we're still talking like a 7-year-old CPU. What was it, 2013? Yeah, it's the same generation, but doing an E5 instead. I looked at that, but I have prepared a little comparison here, you see. And if one then wanted to try and do something with this, let's see if we can get this optimized. Yes, there we go. There we go. The Zen 3 architecture that AMD has just introduced. Of course, we don't know yet exactly what it will do. They claim that it will do 20%, almost up to, they say, up to 20% better performance per cycle, or whatever they call it. Up to, yes, that means that under certain conditions and under a very specific type of calculation in a specific type of order, when the cache is lined up just perfectly, just right, and everything, and the stars align and the moon and everything is in the exact right thing, then we might get that. So for the purposes of comparisons here, I went for this one. Yes. Now, the single thread rating is what we are interested in. That's going to matter the most. It certainly would be nice to have 6 cores in this machine, since, I mean, 4 is plenty to run Soviet Republic. But there are other workloads which better utilize the available system resources. And then it might feel a bit limiting with only 4 cores available, right? So one really would like 6, but anyway, the thing here, that was the wrong mouse. He has 5 keyboards and 2 mice and 3 trackpads. Here we have. Anyway, the classic Soviet simulator, single thread rating of 1582. Okay, and the current Soviet simulator, single thread rating of, according to this number, arbitrary number here, but it is at least comparable to each other, yes, so to speak, in relation to the 600 more. Okay, so 7 years later then, where we are now in 2020, what do we get? I mean, for cheap, Intel has this i3 10300 offering, which is I mean, if it can keep this up for any amount of time, and the operating system can be clever enough to schedule the Soviet Republic to run on that core and so on, maybe. Then that would give us a single thread rating. I don't know how this number, if that is the base clock or if it is the turbo, best lightning strikes value. If lightning strikes value, when everything lines up and so on. Yes. Does it matter? Yes, it matters quite a bit. But anyway, that would get us then from 2153 to 2007. So about the same amount in number increase as from the classic Soviet simulator to today's one. So maybe another 5% or so. It would also mean, going to quicker memory. Perhaps, not certainly though, because yes, these are DDR3, but the welding station here, that has pretty good, memory controllers and stuff, and that's runs those pretty optimized. So you have to get pretty good DDR4 memory to actually get the bandwidth and so on. Yes, it's very complex. Let's not get into that now. One thing that is interesting though is we don't do a whole lot more work here. I mean, from this generation to this generation, yes, about 600 points. And about 3 years, yes, from this generation to this, the absolute latest and greatest from Intel, introduced Q2 2020. Yes, it's about the same amount of increase in single thread performance. And that is the only thing we're talking about here, because multi-threading is fantastic. Both the number of cores going up and the number of threads going up, and we're even sacrificing clock speed in favor of core count, which is excellent for many workloads and many circumstances. Yes, but not Soviet Republic though. It is terrible for Soviet Republic, regrettably. It is absolutely not what we want for Soviet Republic, and yes, it may apply to other titles as well, with similar problems. The problem being that players don't know when to stop. That's one of the problems. Yes, if you know when to stop, then you wouldn't get into this problem. But I mean, that's quite mediocre. If you look at it from this perspective, the increase. Yes, I mean, we can look at this, the TDP rating. For it's now 65 watts. It takes a whole lot less actual physical work to do these calculations now than it did. So we accomplish more for less, but we don't accomplish it quicker as long as it is a single-threaded workload. I don't think that they can do a whole lot about that. Yes, for comparison, we had the Ryzen here. Yes, we're jumping wildly between the things. It is what it is. I'm sorry. This is my. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. What is the best for me? Yes. and sharing it in the hopes that it will be useful to someone or something. I don't know. All the time why I'm doing this, but I do it. I mean, if in best case scenario then, in the next generation of this, the Zen 3 architecture, they would be able to get this up maybe. I don't think that they'll hit 3,000, maybe in because apparently the way they are selling these, they're not coming with a budget offering initially a low-cost one, such as the Core i3 here, which is quite low cost anyway. It will be $299 US in the US without taxes. It will be a whole lot more to me, put it that way. At least $70 more, if enough. I'm speculating about pricing things, but yes, I think that there is somewhere around there. The Intel one I can buy now, and perhaps get a little bit better performance for this particular game, but it's not really something that I want to invest in. This crap, no. I can get, build myself something from this generation. That is a monster in terms of threads and cores and RAM and everything, and I can do that for cheap, quite cheap anyway. And then I'll get ECC RAM and board management controller and proper stuff you want. Maybe not the all game, a gamer maybe not, it isn't that important to, but to someone who's used to having those features when interacting with computers, yes, I suppose you get spoiled. And I really think that the ECC memory bit, yes, it feels good to know that we're aware of memory problems should they arise. Yes. But if okay, they're not offering a low cost at least for the start here for AMD. But so it's say $300 for the CPU. The motherboard, I mean, you'd want to spend almost as much. Yes, we say we're up to $550. Yes, and then some RAM. I have no idea what RAM costs. Desktop RAM, I don't know. Say $200 more, because I don't want 16 gigabytes. No, I want not less than I have here. 32, 24 is a good minimum baseline, I would say, in 2020 for a desktop or anything that you want to sit down and work at. There is no reason to have less. It's so cheap. Is it making any sound here in the background? Yes, there is a train. Every now and then that is rolling around. Yes, I get distracted and lose the thread. Yes, I don't know how many threads I'm up to with my scheduler is a bit forgetful. It forgets about certain threads quite often, in fact, and it is very, very unpredictable in how it in the prioritization, of how it does the thing, how it schedules the tasks. As we cannot see, have I not shown the single wasn't that visible when? No, because the Soviet simulator was in the way. Should we move the Soviet simulator? Put it up here instead, maybe. Yes, we could have done that before. That would have been more useful. Yes, made a hash of that too. Great. Soviet simulator can be a bit larger. There we go. Anywho, I don't feel like buying an Ryzen for whatever Zen 3 for for $300 or something, and then a motherboard, and then a thing. Yes, it would be, before I'm done, $700 or so, and I could maybe get away a bit cheaper if I went, with the budget here. The i3, could probably put that together for 500. Yes, we're talking like motherboard, CPU, memory, nothing else. But you want a good motherboard, because when you're buying the motherboard, it's going into an architecture and a generation, and then hoping that there's something that the goddamn makers here, the Intel and AMD, yes, that's something that they'll stick to for a while and not replace in 6 months' time. And the motherboard that you invested in is useless. And also, if it dies, the CPU is useless too. Can become. This almost happened to me. I bought the first. I still have it, but it's not in assembled order. The first generation Core i7, I believe it was. That had a very special socket. Yes, a socket that only existed for a very short time on the market. And of course the motherboard broke slightly after it had slightly after that it existed on the market. It was really difficult to get a hold of one of those, But this FCLGA 1200, that's new for this generation. So hopefully they'll stick to it for a while, but yes, you never know what they get up to. The LGA 1366, that's good stuff, This is good stuff. The good old. What has changed since this? Yes, this has changed quite a bit. Has this changed? Yes, okay, it's actually doubled. It's actually doubled for this. Right, Moore's law used to mean that this number doubled every 18 months. Yes, every 18 months. So, when I went from in my childhood, in my young years, when I went from a 486 SX 33 megahertz to a Pentium 200 megahertz with MMX instruction set, that was some difference. It was maybe a bit more than 18 months in between those, but that was a whole lot of difference. And yes, according to Moore's law, that number, the classic interpretation, at least, or for a while, the interpretation has been that you get more performance, twice the performance basically every 18 months or so. But here we can see that the performance might have doubled in 10 years. Yes, 10 years. For performing a single-threaded task. Pure computing, so to speak. So maybe let's see if we can't find that whilst we're at it here. From the cloud Soviet simulator, since I made such a complete hash of showing that last time. Actually not showing it, just talking about it. That's not really wasn't quite the effect I was going for. Put it that way. Oh. But here it is running on Azure. It is not running better there. Yes, NVIDIA Tesla M60 does not notice that the game is running. And the CPUs that they have here are E3 Intel. Come back here with your thing. E3 2693 E3 is the CPU. Not E3, no, E5. Yes, and then well, you don't have get your JavaScript working. No, am I making these numbers up? I don't think so. Intel, I'm trying to talk good about you. But you give up when I type in, nonsense here. Then... wasn't it... No, I suppose not. Something close to that. What the hell that's supposed to exist? Or I'm messing some number up or something. 26. V3. Never mind this. Never mind this. Any conclusions to get to? Or such? We're going to keep rambling. Yes, Intel, they're currently on the Comet Lake. That's what they call their current incantation, which is then twice as good as a 10-year-old CPU at single-thread performance. And AMD Zen 3, which they claim is 19% better if lightning strikes than current generation. Wrong thing, that too. Here it is. There's so many things to keep, try and keep if it's confusing for you, I guarantee it is even worse for me here. What the hell are you trying to do? Yes, Comet Lake. That's these. These are Comet Lake, sort of. And this is Zen 2. And Zen 2 did 2676 for a single thread rating, which is actually worse than the sort of budget, well, slightly higher tier budget offering from Intel, which again is hidden by the Soviet simulator. Go away. There you can be. Yes. And there is one step down from that, which is a bit cheaper. That's probably as good as you can get currently to play this game, as long as you have a GPU which isn't 10 years old. What this is a GTX 1060. We saw that on the thing. We have been seeing it all over the place, in fact. Yes, we have the Asher thing. Oh, that is loading. Apparently, something. Could we get something? There we go. Now it's rolling. I'm apparently playing around. Yes, it had 12 gigabytes of video RAM. This thing. So I figured draw distance should not be a problem. And it looks more or less the same. And then it is so difficult to get the comparison. Yes, that's the one point I wanted to make, because it certainly feels, even if the numbers aren't saying it, the numbers may say that there is basically no difference whatsoever if one is to believe these numbers from this generation to that generation. But yes, feeling is at least 5%. Yes, is it worth another 5% for let's say $600? Is that worth another 5%? I think that might actually be what is required to get me. Is it worth? Put it this way: is it worth $550 to get rid of an addiction? I suppose it depends on the addiction. But for some, I'd say that sounds like a pretty good deal. Imagine if you're a smoker, for example, $550. How depending on where you live, It's anything from 2 months to 20 years. But anyway, tobacco is very, very differently priced around the world. Yes, they say that you can then pay $550 to get rid of that addiction. That would sound like a pretty good deal, considering also the health benefits and so on, which you would get with that. There should be some instance here of the. We actually see some numbers. Yes, 5 frames per second. Not great. Oh. Also, don't mind. Don't care about this stuff. I think that wraps it up basically. That this is, if anything, yes, here comes my wish to the game making industry, to the game makers, because this has always been the problem and the crutch of these games, that there are players that just don't know when to stop. And just want to continue building and building and building and building and building. And I'm now currently at this level of development. There's quite a lot of stuff built here, so I understand. Yes, the save game is about 1.6 gigabytes, I think, uncompressed. So a very impressive performance on writing out that autosave to permanent storage. I don't know how you did that. That's pretty good. Efficient use of the available APIs, I would think it is. Anyway. It's the wish to the game makers. Look at those numbers. Think about those numbers. In 10 years, we have doubled the performance that you are dependent on to run your games, and that your players are dependent on to play your games. That doesn't sound like a way forward. Now, if I were to do something different here, if I were to pull up a different comparison, say, if we can accomplish that, I don't know. We have to get the Soviet simulator smaller again, and then try and find. Yes. Why aren't you? There you go. Thank you. Let's just see what is available here. For example, I'm going to go with old stuff because that's what I know. No. Okay, so it wasn't a. Let's say we're doing 80. From this or similar things are extremely widely deployed in various enterprise environments. Now, I don't know about this particular one, but it's something. Yes, and then we put in the point I was trying to make. I think I already made it. No, not. We say the best thing that was available 10 years ago, and something that is widely deployed, and yes, this 1290. That's a Xeon workstation class CPU. That I think is about the best you could get for this game currently, since that can turbo up to 5.3 gigahertz, and since it's also a Xeon thing, I think that it will actually be able to sustain turbo performance every now and then. Okay, so single thread rating here. Yes, that is then twice what this was 10 years ago, or were 10 years ago. That's but you know, look at this number as the total available computing power has increased quite a lot. Yes, about 4 times. 4, 5, 6 times. Yes. Moore's law basically applies still, more or less, if you adjust for parallelization of the workload. I think I should get off this now and wrap this up. I've been apparently going on for almost an hour here. That was perhaps not the intention. No, do we want to play any more of these old videos? Maybe. No, there's no point. The numbers speak for themselves, and it's not really that interesting. That's something that you can go for if you'd like, I suppose. I don't know if I'll bother, because in the end it will not make that much difference. I don't think. That's one more thing that we want to make. Yes, makers of these games, please adapt to this fact and make your games multi-threaded. Isn't City Skylines actually properly multi-threaded? But they have a different limit. The amount of objects or something. It was a long time ago I played it, but there's yes, you wrote Morgan here. 500,000 or so population. It's apparently capped to. And for Soviet Republic, my feeling is, having played this game basically constantly since it was publicly released to early access, the focus has always been on getting new stuff in. Since that, so many things that was in the game then are still here and feel so fundamental and basic that I don't think that they're going to change. Yes, ripping the game apart into 2 threads was a great undertaking probably, and a great accomplishment as well, as it is working. Otherwise this size of map would not have been possible. But both, this game engine is lost basically to this. You cannot build out like I want to do. You cannot do this and continue. Maybe you shouldn't, but I would like to. I'm only using, well, for this particular CPU, 40%. If I would have had a different one, it would be 10, with a few more cores. Yes. Anyway. Yes, that's what you're talking about now. So, paralyze this. And then we could see some tycoon games. Since the times of Transport Tycoon, Transport Tycoon Deluxe, which is what drew me into. It was my gateway drug into this complete. I don't even know what you call it. Something deep, abyss. Yes, this abyss. It was the same thing then, same deal. Yes, the game ran great when you loaded it up first, and as you played it for a while. But then it got slow, and then it got even slower, and then you had to abandon all the stuff that you had worked on so much because it wasn't any. It was now a slideshow. It's not enjoyable anymore. And now, many years later, same deal. And yes, this is a very small developer that is doing Soviet Republic. Transport Fever, that's a slightly larger developer. It's not a huge development, but there are a whole lot more people there. But as far as I understand, anyway, I'm not very. I might be wrong. Yell at me if I'm wrong, but I think the economy and world simulation is single-threaded there as well. So same problem, and it doesn't matter even if you have the latest and greatest. Yes, that game is a bit more, visually different, let's say. To Soviet Republic, it has a bit more fancy things going on. So there, maybe a better GPU would actually be of benefit. Here, it is of absolutely no benefit whatsoever, except for in certain circumstances. Or is the problem? Is it simply very unoptimized? It's running at 13 FPS, and if we look at the cores, why isn't at least one core completely pinned to 100%? Why isn't it running at least the full potential of one core doing the world simulation? No, because it has to do context switching between different tasks probably, and it has to do. Now I'm theorizing, but if you start out with something that is monolithic, which we did here, which Soviet Republic started off as single-threaded one thing. Yeah, that video apparently ended there. We can do. Let's do the quadro thing. Yes, the problem is I keep losing the point all the time when I get distracted here. It's cool. You can see the thing getting loaded into memory. Yes. It goes back. Yeah. Yes, slow storage. Anyway, what was the point that you were trying to make? No. Why isn't? Yes. The game engine was monolithic from the start, and then you had to break it apart in two threads. One being the economy and the world simulation, and one being the graphics. Then sort of somehow, I think that they talk to each other every now and then, and sync up or something. They have to reach a state of agreement every now and then, I would suppose, or something. However it was accomplished. And that might be one reason why with all this stuff going on, there probably could be optimizations done to the game, but how many are there working on it? One person? No, there are more, but it's a very small team, put it that way. And the focus is adding stuff. Yes, aeroplanes we're getting, tourism we're getting. I don't think performance optimizations, regrettably, is very much on the schedule. The thing is that the game actually performs pretty well until you get to depending on hardware. But at this point, when you get to 80,000 people that we are here, I don't think it matters. Yes, again, if latest and greatest everything, and maybe 15% more than this. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and please prove me wrong. I would love to see this thing running at 30 frames per second, if we could get it to that. Please prove me wrong. This is yes, and this is a bit more awful than it has to be, since it is running on the Quattro 6000 there. But at least it's nice to see that she has to work a bit. Should we wrap it up there? Yes, please optimize the game. And definitely focus on that before doing larger maps, because what would be the point of having a large map? Yes, we could have longer railroads and longer roads that we need snowplows for between settlements and such, but we could not have more. That ambulance is not going by very smoothly. No, but that must wrap it up. Yes, performance and benchmarks for Soviet Republic on old got-down hardware, and speculations and tangents about all sorts of things in between here. Tangents being widely spread about and such, which is pretty common, actually. Okay. Yes, this is not right because I'm not in the right place. I am definitely. It is a proper Soviet simulator and so, but as you can see, the keyboard, yes, is different. This is not right. No, but we will wrap it up about here somewhere. At the harbor, which has been rebuilt. Okay, the train tracks has not been rebuilt. Well, those train tracks need to be rebuilt. Come on, people. Oh, you don't have a construction train set. Well, then that's a bit more work for a different day, I would think. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was maybe made some sense, at some points at least. And if it was of some use, and again, yes, please prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong that yes, if you buy this, and it will run great. Yes, I'd like to be proven wrong about this, but not holding my breath. So thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.